Please do not. Please do not tell your best friend you saw me here. You are his brother. Why are you asking me to keep this secret? Because tonight was the first time I ever walked into a place like this. I will not expose you. But you look more afraid of me than anyone here. I was afraid you would judge me. I was not prepared to want you to stay.
Moments earlier, I thought the crowded dance floor held nothing capable of changing my life. I had been standing near the bar at Prism, a crowded club in Chicago, half listening to my friend Mason complain about the price of his drink, while blue and purple lights swept across the room. The bass was loud enough to vibrate through the floor beneath my shoes, and I was about to suggest we find somewhere quieter when I noticed a familiar face about 20 feet away. At first, my brain refused to place him. The dark jacket was familiar. So was the careful posture, the expression that always made him look like he was silently reviewing a contract nobody else had been allowed to read. Then he turned toward the light, and my stomach dropped. Ryan Mitchell, my best friend's older brother. Ryan was 29, a commercial real estate attorney, and probably the most private person I had ever met. I was 26, the same age as Noah, and I had known Ryan for almost 6 years through him. During the first year, I had carried a brief private crush on Ryan, then buried it because he seemed unavailable, intimidating, and as far as I knew, straight. I had never told Noah. In all that time, Ryan had remained a mystery, wrapped in expensive suits and polite conversation. At Thanksgiving, he helped his mother clear the table. At Noah's birthday parties, he stayed exactly long enough to be considered sociable. Whenever anyone asked about his dating life, he somehow changed the subject without making it obvious. And now he was sitting alone at the end of a gay club's bar, staring into a glass of club soda like it contained instructions he desperately needed. I should have looked away. Instead, Ryan lifted his head. His eyes found mine across the crowd. Everything about him changed. His shoulders stiffened. His fingers froze around the glass. For one strange second, neither of us moved. Then Ryan stood. He crossed the room with the controlled expression I recognized from family dinners, but up close, I could see something I had never seen on him before. Fear, not panic, not embarrassment, something quieter and heavier. He said my name, then checked whether Noah was with me. When I explained that Noah was visiting his parents, relief crossed Ryan's face. He leaned close enough to be heard and asked me to keep the encounter private. I agreed without demanding an explanation. Whatever had brought Ryan through that door, being recognized by me had made his private choice terrifyingly real. I told him the truth belonged to him and that I would not expose it. He studied me as though he had prepared for judgment and did not know what to do when none came. For half a second, the corner of his mouth nearly lifted. Then the guarded look returned. Ryan said he should leave. Before I could stop him, he disappeared into the crowd. I watched him leave through the front doors, carrying a secret I suddenly wished did not feel so personal. Mason appeared beside me and asked who I had been talking to. Nobody, I said, surprising myself with how quickly the lie came. 5 minutes later, my phone buzzed in my pocket. I expected Noah, because apparently the universe had a sense of humor. It was not him. The message was from Ryan. I read it twice before the meaning settled in. Can we talk somewhere else? I stared at Ryan's message until the screen dimmed in my hand. Mason was still beside me, waiting for an explanation I had no intention of giving him. So I told him I needed some air and stepped outside. The cool Chicago night felt almost silent after the music inside Prism. Ryan was nowhere near the entrance. Another message appeared before I could decide whether answering was a good idea. There is a diner on Clark Street, 2 blocks north. I will wait there. 10 minutes later, I found him in a booth at the back of a nearly empty diner, sitting beneath a warm yellow light with a mug of coffee untouched between his hands. Without the club around him, Ryan looked more familiar, but somehow less protected. I slid into the seat across from him. You know, asking someone to meet you secretly after midnight is a pretty effective way to make everything seem more suspicious. Ryan looked at me for a second, then surprised me with a quiet laugh. I am not very good at this. At diners? At any of this. The humor disappeared as quickly as it had arrived. He looked down at his coffee. Tonight was the first time I actually went inside a place like that. I waited. He seemed almost confused by my silence. I drove there 3 times this month, he continued. The first 2 times I never got out of my car. Tonight I sat across the street for 40 minutes before I finally walked in. Why tonight? Because I was tired of being afraid of a building. That answer told me more than a long explanation could have. Ryan took a breath. I have known for years, Ethan. His voice was steady, but his hands tightened slightly around the mug. I kept telling myself it did not matter because I was busy. College, law school, work. There was always another reason not to deal with it. And Noah does not know. Ryan shook his head. Nobody in my family knows. That has to be exhausting. His eyes lifted to mine. I watched some invisible defense inside him loosen. That is not what I expected you to say. What did you expect? Questions, maybe judgment, definitely curiosity. I am curious. He raised an eyebrow. I am also capable of minding my own business. This time his smile lasted longer. The waitress came over, and I ordered coffee. When she walked away, Ryan studied me with an expression I could not quite read. Why are you making this so easy? He asked. Because it does not need to be harder. He looked toward the window, where passing headlights moved across the glass. Noah talks about you constantly. That sounds terrible. Usually it is. I laughed, and Ryan did too. For the first time in 6 years, talking to him did not feel like talking to my best friend's intimidating older brother. It felt like meeting someone new. That realization made me unexpectedly nervous. I am not ready to tell Noah, he said. Then do not tell him tonight. You really will keep this between us? Yes. His shoulders lowered slightly. Thank you. My coffee arrived, and we talked until nearly 2 in the morning. Nothing dramatic happened. Ryan asked about my graphic design job. I learned he hated golf despite attending corporate golf outings constantly, loved terrible mystery movies, and had once considered studying architecture before choosing law. Small things, ordinary things. Yet each one made the Ryan I thought I knew disappear a little more. Outside the diner, we stopped beneath the awning. You should get home, he said. So should you. He nodded, then hesitated. Can I ask you something? Sure. If I have questions about all of this, would it be strange if I texted you? I smiled. Ryan, you already texted me. He looked almost embarrassed. Right. I started walking toward the train station when my phone buzzed again. I turned around, expecting him to be joking. Ryan was already heading toward his car. His message contained only 6 words. I am glad it was you. Ryan did not text me the next morning. He waited until 11:47 that night, which somehow felt more revealing. I was sitting on my couch with my laptop balanced on one knee, pretending to finish a logo concept for a client, when his name appeared on my phone. Is it normal to feel like everyone knows? I stared at the message before answering. Knows what? 3 dots appeared, disappeared, then returned. Where I was last night. What it means. I smiled despite myself. Ryan Mitchell, the man who could negotiate commercial leases worth millions of dollars without blinking, was apparently terrified that strangers at a grocery store had developed supernatural powers overnight. Nobody knows anything unless you tell them, I wrote. His reply came quickly. That sounds obvious when you say it. Most useful things do. That should have been the end of the conversation. Instead, we kept talking until almost 1 in the morning. Then it happened again 2 nights later, and again on Thursday. Ryan started with questions that sounded almost clinical. How did I know when I was ready to tell people? Was there a right way to meet someone? Did every gay bar feel as overwhelming as Prism? I answered what I could, and refused to pretend there was a universal instruction manual. Somewhere along the way, his questions stopped being questions. He told me about a terrible mystery movie he was watching. I sent him a photograph of the disaster I called dinner. He informed me that frozen pizza did not qualify as cooking. I reminded him that coffee at midnight did not qualify as hydration. By the following week, hearing from Ryan had become part of my routine. That should have worried me more than it did. Noah noticed something first. We were eating burgers at a neighborhood place near my apartment when my phone buzzed beside my plate. I glanced down automatically. Ryan had sent me a photograph of a ridiculously expensive desk chair with the message, "This looks like something designed by your profession." I laughed before I could stop myself. Noah narrowed his eyes. Who is that? Nobody. The answer came too quickly. Noah leaned back. You have been smiling at nobody a lot lately. Maybe nobody is funny. You are terrible at being mysterious. My stomach tightened. Keeping Ryan's confidence had felt simple in the diner. Lying to Noah did not. I changed the subject, and thankfully, he let me. That evening, Ryan called instead of texting. Did I create a problem? He asked after I told him what happened. Not yet. Silence settled between us. I do not want you lying to him for me. Then you might want to stop sending me pictures of furniture during dinner. He laughed softly. Noted. Neither of us hung up. I walked to my apartment window and looked down at the traffic moving along the wet street. Can I ask you something now? I said. You have answered approximately 40 of my questions. I suppose you have earned one. Why me? Ryan went quiet. You could talk to someone who is not your brother's best friend. I could. But you do not. Another pause. You did not look at me differently that night. His voice had lost its usual polished certainty. Everyone has an idea of who I am. My parents, Noah, people at work. I have spent so long being that person that sometimes I cannot tell where he ends and I begin. I did not know what to say to that. Then Ryan added, with you, I do not feel like I have to perform. Something warm and dangerous moved through my chest. That is a lot of responsibility for someone who eats frozen pizza. I am beginning to reconsider my judgment. I laughed, but when the call ended, I stayed by the window thinking about his words. The next morning, another message was waiting for me. There is a coffee shop in Lakeview I have been wanting to try. Would you go with me Saturday? Before I could answer, a second message appeared. Just to be clear, this is not a date. I looked at those words far longer than necessary, because for the first time, I found myself wishing it was. Saturday arrived with the kind of bright Chicago morning that made the city look more optimistic than it had any right to be. I reached the coffee shop in Lakeview 5 minutes early and found Ryan already sitting at a small table near the window. Of course he was early. Ryan looked different outside his usual world of tailored suits and family dinners. He wore dark jeans, a gray sweater, and a navy jacket, and somehow that made him more intimidating because now he looked less like Noah's older brother and more like a man I might have noticed on my own. "Remember," he said as I sat down, "this is not a date." "Good morning to you too." His mouth twitched. I wanted to establish expectations. "You are a lawyer. I assumed there would be terms and conditions." "Very funny." I looked at the 2 cups on the table. "You already ordered for me?" "Medium coffee, splash of cream, no sugar." I stared at him. "How do you know that?" Ryan suddenly looked interested in the window. "You ordered it at the diner 2 weeks ago. I have a good memory." That answer should not have made my chest feel warm, but it did. We spent the next hour talking about everything except the reason we were there. Ryan told me about studying architecture before switching to law. I told him about the first terrible logo I had ever been paid to design. He laughed more than I had ever heard him laugh around Noah, and every time he did, I wondered how much of this version of Ryan had been hidden behind the careful one. Eventually, he looked around the coffee shop. 2 men were holding hands at a nearby table. Nobody stared. Nobody cared. Ryan noticed that too. "This is what I wanted to see," he said quietly. "What?" "Normal." I understood immediately. Before I could answer, someone stopped beside our table. "Ethan?" I looked up. The stranger was around my age, with sandy blonde hair and an easy smile. It took me a second to recognize him. "Caleb." "Hey." We had met at a friend's birthday party months earlier and exchanged maybe 10 sentences. Caleb glanced at Ryan, then back at me. "I thought that was you. Are you still doing freelance design?" "Whenever people are willing to pay me." "I might need someone for a project." Caleb pulled out his phone. "Can I get your number?" I gave it to him, and after another minute of conversation, he left. When I looked back at Ryan, he was stirring coffee that did not need stirring. "What?" I asked. "Nothing." "You have been stirring that cup for 30 seconds. He stopped. He seemed friendly. "Caleb? Was that his name?" I nearly smiled. "Yes, that was his name." Ryan nodded with exaggerated neutrality. We left shortly afterward and walked toward the lake. The wind coming off Lake Michigan was cold enough that I shoved my hands into my jacket pockets. Ryan was unusually quiet. Finally, I stopped near a bench. "Were you jealous?" His head turned sharply. "What?" "When Caleb asked for my number." "He wanted to hire you." "Maybe." "Then why would I be jealous?" That was my question. Ryan looked away toward the water. For once, he had no polished answer ready. "Ethan, this is complicated." "I know. You are Noah's best friend. I also know that. And I am still figuring things out." "Ryan, I asked if you were jealous. I did not ask you to plan our retirement." That finally made him laugh, but he never answered. We parted at the train station 20 minutes later. I told myself to forget the whole conversation. That worked until 11:18 that night, when my phone lit up beside me. Ryan had sent one message. Would it be terrible if I said yes? I read Ryan's message 3 times before answering. No. But pretending you were not jealous might be. The typing indicator appeared almost immediately, vanished, then returned. I expected one of his carefully measured explanations. Instead, he wrote, "Can I see you tomorrow?" That was how I ended up sitting beside Ryan in his car on Sunday evening, parked along a quiet residential street near Lincoln Park, while a light rain traced silver lines across the windshield. We had planned to get dinner, but neither of us had moved since he turned off the engine 10 minutes earlier. "We need to talk about Noah," I said. Ryan exhaled slowly. "I know. I am serious. Whatever this is becoming, I cannot keep lying to my best friend." "Neither can I." "Then we need boundaries." Ryan looked at me. "Boundaries?" "Yes. That sounds suspiciously like something a lawyer would say. You are rubbing off on me." He smiled, but the tension remained. I looked through the windshield at the rain. "I will keep your confidence about the club. That belongs to you. But if something happens between us, that becomes my secret too." Ryan was quiet for several seconds. "You are right." I turned toward him. That was surprisingly easy. "Would you prefer an argument?" "Maybe a small one. I prepared several excellent points." He laughed, and the sound softened something between us. Then his expression changed. "Ethan, I do not know what I am doing." "Neither do I. You have more experience than I do. That does not mean I have a map." Ryan nodded, watching the rain. "I spent years thinking that if I ignored this part of myself, eventually it would become irrelevant. Work made that easy. Family made it easier. Everyone already knew who Ryan Mitchell was supposed to be. And now? Now I am sitting in a car with my brother's best friend trying to explain why I was jealous of a man named Caleb." I smiled. Progress. Ryan laughed quietly, then looked at me with an openness that made my joke disappear. "The club was not the thing I was afraid of that night." I waited. "You seeing me was." "Why?" His eyes stayed on mine. "Because I cared what you thought." My heartbeat seemed suddenly too loud for the small space. "Before that night?" I asked. Ryan hesitated. That hesitation answered before he did. "Yes." The word changed everything. I thought about family dinners, birthday parties, all those polite conversations I had dismissed as nothing. "How long?" "Long enough that I knew it was a bad idea." "That is extremely specific." "I noticed you. I made sure not to do anything about it." "Because of Noah?" "Because of Noah. Because I was not ready. Because you seemed comfortable with yourself in a way I was not." His voice lowered. "And because wanting something makes it harder to pretend you do not." Neither of us spoke. His hand rested on the center console, only inches from mine. I looked down, then back at him. The distance felt enormous. I slowly placed my hand beside his. Ryan turned his palm upward, giving me every chance to move away. I did not. Our fingers closed together, nothing more. But the simplicity of it hit me harder than any dramatic confession could have. Ryan looked at our hands as though he could barely believe they were there. "We still have to tell Noah," I whispered. "I know. Before this becomes something we have to hide." Ryan nodded. "I want to tell him myself." "When?" "Soon." I squeezed his hand once before letting go. We finally went to dinner, and nothing else happened. No promises, no labels. But when Ryan dropped me outside my apartment 2 hours later, I knew we had crossed a line neither of us could uncross. The next afternoon, Noah texted me. "Dinner Wednesday? You, me, and Ryan. It has been forever." I stared at the message until another one appeared. "And do not make excuses. I already invited him." Wednesday should have been simple. Burgers, fries, Noah complaining about work, Ryan pretending not to enjoy Noah complaining about work, and me sitting between two brothers I had known for years. Instead, I spent the entire afternoon feeling like I was carrying a secret written across my face. Ryan texted me before dinner. "I'm going to tell him tonight," I answered with one word. "Okay." We met at a neighborhood restaurant near Noah's apartment at 7. Noah was already in a booth when I arrived, waving like we had not seen each other in months instead of 5 days. Ryan came in a minute later, still wearing his work clothes, his tie loosened slightly at the collar. Our eyes met for half a second. That was all. Somehow it felt obvious. "Why are you two acting weird?" Noah asked before Ryan even sat down. "We are not," I said. That sounded convincing. Ryan opened the menu. "Maybe you are the one acting weird." "Excellent. My brother has arrived and immediately chosen hostility." I laughed because that was what I normally would have done. Ryan smiled. For the next hour, everything almost felt normal. Noah told us about a co-worker who kept stealing his yogurt from the office refrigerator. Ryan suggested labeling it. I suggested buying terrible yogurt nobody would want. Noah rejected both solutions, but every few minutes, I caught Ryan looking at me, and every time he did, I remembered his hand turning upward in the car. After dinner, Noah suggested walking to a nearby ice cream shop. Ryan glanced at me. This was supposed to be the moment. "Actually," Ryan began, "there is something I wanted to talk to you about." Noah's phone rang. He checked the screen and groaned. "Work. Give me 5 minutes." He stepped outside before either of us could stop him. Ryan leaned back and closed his eyes. Apparently the universe objects to honesty. "You still have tonight." "I know." Noah returned several minutes later, irritated and distracted. He had to go home and fix a problem for work, so the conversation was postponed. Ryan offered to drive me home. I should have taken the train. Instead, 15 minutes later, we were parked outside my apartment beneath the orange glow of a streetlight. "I almost told him," Ryan said. "You tried." "That does not feel like enough." "Then tell him tomorrow." Ryan looked at me. "You make everything sound simple." "Nothing about this has been simple." His expression softened. "No, it is not." Neither of us reached for the door. The city moved quietly around us, tires whispering over damp pavement. Ryan's hand rested between us. This time I did not hesitate before taking it. He smiled down at our joined hands. "I like this," he said. "Holding hands? Not having to pretend with you." My chest tightened. "Then stop pretending." He looked up. For a moment, there was only that quiet understanding we had been building for weeks. Ryan lifted his other hand but stopped before touching me. "Can I kiss you?" he asked. "Yes." Only then did his palm settle gently against my cheek. He leaned closer and kissed me, brief and careful, more question than declaration. When we separated, I was smiling. Ryan was too. Then someone said my name. "Ethan?" Every warm feeling inside me vanished. Ryan's hand dropped from mine. I turned toward the sidewalk. Noah stood about 10 feet from the car, his laptop bag on one shoulder and a paper bag holding 3 sealed ice cream cups in one hand, staring through the passenger window. He lived only 7 blocks away. After solving the work problem, he had stopped at the shop and walked to my building, assuming Ryan had already dropped me off and left. Instead, Ryan's familiar car was still at the curb, and Noah had seen enough. His eyes moved from Ryan to me and back again. Confusion became recognition, then something much harder to read. Ryan opened his door. "Noah, wait, I can explain." Noah took one step backward. "How long?" Please let me talk to you. How long has this been happening? I got out of the car. Noah, it is not what you think. He looked directly at me. The hurt in his expression was worse than anger could have been. You are my best friend. I know. And he is my brother. I know. Noah swallowed and looked between us one final time. Then how long have both of you been lying to me? Noah's question stayed between us like a locked door none of us knew how to open. Ryan stepped away from the car first. 3 weeks, he said. But not the way you think. Noah gave a short, disbelieving laugh. I just watched you kiss my best friend. What exactly am I supposed to think? That part is new, I said. Noah looked at me, and I immediately wished I had found better words. So there are parts? He asked. Noah, listen to me. Ryan's voice was calm, but I could hear the strain underneath it. This started because I needed someone to talk to. Why Ethan? Ryan hesitated. I knew the answer, but it was not mine to give. Noah noticed the silence. Right, of course. He adjusted the laptop bag on his shoulder and started walking away. Ryan followed him a few steps. Noah, please. Noah stopped but did not turn around. I do not care that you are gay, Ryan. Ryan went completely still. Noah finally faced him. If that is what you are afraid I am angry about, then you really do not know me. Ryan's expression changed. I never thought you would hate me. Then why did Ethan know before I did? There it was. Not judgment. Hurt. Ryan looked down. Because Ethan saw me before I could hide. Telling you required me to choose honesty, and I kept postponing it because your opinion mattered too much. Noah's expression did not soften. That still does not excuse lying. No, Ryan said. It does not. Noah looked at me. And you? Every time I asked why you were smiling at your phone, every time you changed the subject, you were talking to him. I could have defended myself. Instead, I nodded. Yes. Noah's disappointment landed harder than anything he could have shouted. I need to go. This time, neither of us stopped him. Ryan and I stood beside the car until Noah disappeared around the corner. I did this, Ryan said quietly. We did this. You were protecting something I asked you to protect. I chose to lie. Ryan turned toward me. I will fix it. Do not. He frowned. What? Do not go to Noah and make this entirely your fault just to protect me. Ethan, he is your best friend. Exactly, which means I owe him my own apology. Ryan looked exhausted. I never wanted to come between you. Then do not decide for me what I can handle. His expression tightened. I am trying to protect you. I know. But you do not get to take my choices away because you are trying to protect me. Silence followed. The words hurt both of us because they were true. Ryan looked toward the empty sidewalk. Maybe we should stop this before it gets worse. My chest tightened. Is that what you want? He did not answer immediately. No. Then do not say it because you think it is noble. Ryan closed his eyes briefly. What do you want me to say? The truth. He looked at me. The truth is that I want to keep seeing you. I swallowed. So do I. But I will not become your secret boyfriend, Ryan. The word boyfriend seemed to surprise both of us. I continued before I could lose my nerve. I can keep your private life private. I cannot build a relationship that only exists in parked cars and late-night messages. Ryan nodded slowly. That is fair. And Noah needs time. So do I. We stood there only a few feet apart, but the distance felt larger than it had on the night we first met at the diner. Ryan finally opened his car door. I'm going to talk to him. Not about us. About me. Good. And after that? I looked at him, wishing I had an easier answer. After that, we figure out whether what we started can survive being real. Ryan drove away, and for the first time in 3 weeks, my phone stayed silent that night. It stayed silent the next day, too. By Friday evening, Noah still had not answered any of my messages. Then, just after 8, my phone finally rang. It was Noah. I answered immediately. Hey. His voice was quiet. Ryan told me everything. Now I need to hear your side. Noah asked me to meet him Saturday morning at the same burger place where he had first noticed me smiling at Ryan's messages. I arrived 10 minutes early, but Noah was already sitting in our usual booth with 2 coffees on the table. Mine was exactly how I liked it. That small gesture gave me more hope than anything he could have said. I sat across from him. Thanks for meeting me. Noah nodded. Ryan came over last night. How did that go? He talked for almost 2 hours. I think that might be a personal record. I smiled carefully. Noah did not. He told me about the club, about you seeing him there, about being scared to tell the family. He looked down at his coffee. He also told me you never pressured him. I would not do that. I know. Somehow those 2 words hurt. Noah, I am sorry. He looked up. For which part? For lying to you, not for keeping Ryan's confidence when he was not ready. I still think that was the right thing to do. But once my feelings changed, I should have told you something was happening. Noah was quiet for a moment. That is the part I could not understand. You are the person I tell everything to. Ryan is my brother. Suddenly, both of you had this whole separate world, and I was standing outside it. You are right. I do not want to be right. I want this to be less weird. I laughed despite the tension. I cannot promise that. Noah finally smiled. It was small, but real. Do you actually like him? The question sounded almost suspicious. Yes. Ryan? There is only one Ryan involved here. My brother who alphabetizes his spice rack? I blinked. He does what? You still have time to escape. I laughed, and this time Noah joined me. The pressure between us loosened, then his expression became serious again. I need you to understand something. I am not upset because Ryan likes men. I am upset because I found out about 2 people I love by looking through a car window. I understand. And I am scared. That surprised me. Of what? Noah traced one finger around the rim of his cup. If you 2 date and it goes badly, what happens to us? What happens at Thanksgiving? Do I become the person carrying messages between my best friend and my brother? No. You cannot know that. I can promise you this much. You will never be our messenger, our referee, or the person forced to choose sides. Whatever happens between Ryan and me belongs to Ryan and me. Noah studied my face. You have thought about this. I had a quiet Thursday. That earned another smile. We stayed for almost an hour. Nothing returned to normal immediately, but normal no longer felt impossible. When we walked outside, Noah pulled me into a quick hug. I'm still annoyed with you. Fair. And if you hurt my brother, I will be extremely judgmental. Also fair. If he hurts you, I will be equally judgmental toward him. Very diplomatic. Noah left, and I stood on the sidewalk feeling lighter than I had all week. My phone rang before I reached the corner. Ryan, I answered. Hey, how did it go? Your brother has concerns about your spice rack, Ryan groaned. I knew he would weaponize that. I laughed. Then his voice softened. Ethan, I told him because I was ready, not because I wanted permission. Good. And I have been thinking about what you said. I stopped walking. Which part? About not wanting something that only exists in secret. There was a pause. So if I ask you out now, I want to do it somewhere neither of us has to hide. My heart started beating faster. Are you finally admitting it would be a date? Ryan laughed quietly. Yes, a real one. Then ask me. He took a breath. Ethan Parker, will you go on a date with me? I smiled at absolutely nobody on the sidewalk. Yes. Ryan was silent for half a second. There is one place I was thinking about. Where? His answer surprised me. Prism. I think I would like to walk through that door again, but this time I do not want to do it alone. 3 weeks later, I stood across the street from Prism with Ryan beside me, watching blue light spill through the club windows onto the Chicago sidewalk. The first time I had seen him here, he had looked like a man hoping to disappear. Tonight, he looked nervous, but he was not hiding it. We can go somewhere else, I said. Ryan glanced at me. Are you trying to rescue me? I'm giving you an exit. I have spent enough time looking for exits. He took a slow breath and looked toward the entrance again. I want to go in. We crossed the street together. Inside, the music wrapped around us immediately, familiar bass vibrating beneath my shoes, while colored lights moved across the crowded room. I watched Ryan carefully. His shoulders tightened for a moment, but he did not turn around. Still overwhelming? I asked. Absolutely. Good. I was worried 3 weeks had transformed you into a nightclub expert. He laughed. Give me another decade. We found a quieter place near the end of the bar. Ryan ordered club soda again, and I smiled when I noticed. What? He asked. Nothing. Some things never change. Plenty of things have changed. He was right. Noah knew about us now. Ryan had also spoken with his parents earlier that week. He had called me afterward, sounding emotionally exhausted but relieved. The conversation had not been perfect, and nobody had magically discovered the right words for everything. But Ryan had chosen honesty on his own terms. That mattered more than perfection. A few minutes later, my phone buzzed. Noah had sent me a message. Please tell my brother that normal people occasionally have fun. I showed Ryan. He is unbearable, Ryan said. He is also correct. I regret introducing the two of you. I stared at him. Ryan, Noah introduced us 6 years ago. Then I regret allowing the friendship to continue. I laughed, and Ryan smiled at me in that unguarded way I had once believed belonged to another person entirely. We stayed for nearly an hour. We talked. We watched people dance. Ryan even admitted that the music was better than he remembered. Nothing dramatic happened, and that was what made the night feel important. Nobody stared at us. Nobody demanded an explanation. We were simply two men spending Saturday night together in Chicago. Eventually, Ryan leaned closer so I could hear him over the music. Can I tell you something embarrassing? Always. When I saw you that first night, part of me wanted to leave immediately. I noticed. But another part of me was relieved. I looked at him. Relieved? Ryan nodded. Because if someone had to see me before I was ready, I was glad it was you. The words brought me back to his first late-night message. I am glad it was you. Back then, I had thought he meant I was safe. Now I understood there had always been something more underneath it. You know what is embarrassing? I said. What? I had a crush on you years ago, Ryan stared at me. Years. Do not look so pleased with yourself. I am trying very hard not to. You are failing. He laughed, then reached for my hand. The gesture was simple, but he did it openly, without checking who might be watching. His fingers settled between mine. I looked down at our hands and felt something inside me become unexpectedly quiet. There was no secret to protect tonight. No explanation waiting outside. No best friend we were avoiding. Just Ryan and me. When we eventually stepped back onto the sidewalk, the night air was cool and the city lights stretched ahead of us. Ryan kept holding my hand as we walked toward the train station. Months later, I would still think about that first night whenever we passed Prism. I had believed I caught Ryan somewhere he was never supposed to be. I had been wrong. The club was never the place where he did not belong. The hiding was. Would you have protected his right to come out privately? Or would keeping that secret from your best friend have crossed a line? Comment below and tell me whether secrecy, family loyalty, or the fear of being seen changed your answer most. If this story stayed with you, please like it and share it with someone who believes honesty and compassion can exist together.